Hello there YouTube land, and welcome back to the Small Workshop Adventures. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you're new to the channel, please click the like button, press the like button, and please subscribe. It's really appreciated. So what are we doing today? Well, you find me here in my workshop, my space of, what is it? It's my workshop, it's my refuge. I love being in here, and I'm not in here enough at the moment doing some stuff. So I need to fix that. I need to spend a bit more time in my workshop. But that's just the way it is. What are we doing? What am I doing today? Well, this is another in the tool review video. So that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at the Dewalt, some brad nailers. So I've got two of them. You may have seen it on the weekend shed head. I actually looked at them. Here we go. I was like messing around with them, only like this. We have a first and second fix nailer, and I've been living with these for just over a month now. I didn't do an unboxing because, to be perfectly honest, I'm putting them down because they're not the lightest of things, and I'll come to that in a little while. To be perfectly honest, I'm fairly new to working with brad nailers, nail guns. And in this case it's the Dewalt, because I keep within the battery system that I've invested in, so it just makes sense for me to stay with it. There are lots of others that would equally do an amazing job, maybe even better, but it's the system I've worked with, that I've invested in, so I'm sticking with the Dewalt system. But yeah, I was saying, to be honest, I'm new to it, so I didn't actually know a lot about them. I knew of them, I knew they were amazing, and I knew they could speed work up, and I knew there was lots of different ones on the market. I've looked at them, I did some research, but I was doing research a little bit, maybe like lots of us, I was doing research into it, but still no experience of myself. So I was a little blind in a way. I knew sort of what I wanted, but I didn't really understand fully how they worked, all the different aspects and characteristics and the makeup of them. So I'm going to talk about that and some of the pitfalls that I ended up falling into a little bit just as I was starting my journey with brad nailers. Now, some of you out there have been using them for years, and that's brilliant. And I had to keep looking at these videos and go, but not everybody said the things I'm going to say, or I couldn't find that. Maybe just people assume that everybody knows these specifications. That's the word I was trying to find, specs of brad nailers. But I didn't know that, and I fell into a couple of pitfalls, particularly in buying the brads themselves. So that's what we're going to get into. So the first one, this is I've got my notes down here, so I'm sort of reading a little bit down there. This is a Dewalt DCN692. It's a first fix. It's a framing nailer. You can see that it's got it on there. Am I holding that right? Yeah, you can see that on there. I'm sure you can, coming into the center of the camera. It's a framing nailer, and they both serve different purposes. In this essence, they do the same thing. They put brad nails into timber, but this one is certainly a lot bigger. And something that I discovered that I never understood, or I never saw on any of the tool reviews, is the different angles of brads that you need. You can't interchange them because they're on a different angle, and I'm going to show you the brads as well. And I fell into that mistake of buying what I thought were brads. I thought they were all universal, the brads just in different sizes, but what we have is different angles. So let me just talk about the specs first of this one. So it's an 18-volt brushless Dewalt framing nailer, so it's got the ability to drive bigger brads into. The smallest brads that you can put in this, another pitfall I discovered, is 50 or 51 mil brads. Anything smaller, it's simply not going to work. If you buy something that's too small, and I thought brad nailer is going to hold all the brads, No, if you go under the smaller brads, which only work in the smaller second fix nailers, then you've got surplus brads. There's a little, where my finger is, I've got some of the brads I bought, and some of them, they just simply don't fit. So I spent money on getting brads, but not understanding, and I don't know whether it tells you anywhere really. Maybe it's just assumed that everybody knows that, but not everybody does. I didn't. So it's getting the right brads for it. So this is 30 to 34 degrees. So if you're buying brads for a first fix nailer, a framing nailer, it's 30 to 34. You need to look at the angle of the brads on that. And in a first fix, you're going in, particularly this model, the DCN692, which is a first fix framing nailer, you can't go any smaller than 51 mil. It also drives brads in up to 90 millimeters. So that's quite an incredible, that's a lot of power. So, but that's the size of the nails. Weight wise, it's not the lightest of things. So you're certainly going to do a workout if you've got this. 4.1 kilograms. I think that's without the battery. So you add the battery as well, then you're adding another pound, couple of pounds to the weight of it. So I'm swapping kilos and pounds there, but you understand where I'm going with this. It's a hefty beast, and it certainly packs a punch. So that's the basics of this particular model. I'm going to come back to it in a minute because there are other aspects of things that we're going to talk about. We have the second fix, so finishing, like a finishing nailer. So this one, a lot lighter. We're coming in at 2.7 kilos, so not quite half the weight of the other one, but you certainly notice after you've been holding the other one, you pick this one up, and I'm covering my face there we go. You pick this one up, it's a lot easier, it's a lot less powerful, and we'll come to how you deal with the power in a minute. But this angle is 20 degrees, so it's a different angle of brads that you've got to buy when you're buying them. Again, I didn't know. I bought some wrong brads, not understanding particularly on the framing nailer, and then finding the ones that work for both of them. Because it's not universal, and either you know that again or you don't. I didn't know that. No one had ever really said. It's just assumed that when you're buying these things that you know what you're doing, but not everybody does, and I didn't, as I'm new to it. So the magazine angle, 20 degrees. So when you're buying brads, 20 degrees. You're also looking at nails or brad nails from 32 millimeters to 63. Again, you can't go too big. So this will take, according to the manufacturer, I've not tried to put it in, I've got about 38, how big are these? They're about 38 millimeters, I think, I'm trying to remember. But it will take apparently 32 to 63 millimeter brads. That's the biggest it will go. And anything under, I don't know whether you can actually buy brads. There's probably some framing nailers that do it even smaller still. I haven't got them. And if I looked into that, maybe I'd find them. But this is the DCN660 18 volt brushless, and it's a second fix finishing nailer. Now, just addressing the framing nailer first, the first fix, you'll find down here where the battery is, you can see that, you have a 2 and a 1, and also this here, which has got a symbol of one brad and multiple brads. So what you can do with this, you can speed it up and slow it down, essentially more power or less power. So it's going to recoil, it's going to drive brads in on number one, just less harder, and it will, that by doing that you will save your battery time, so you will get more out of it. And generally, if you are putting in smaller brads, not up to the big 90, 70, 80, 90 mil, but if you're working with what I've got in here at the minute, then it only needs to be on number one, because your battery time is going to last so much longer, and you're not also punching on the end because it punches so hard, you're punching a hole in the end into your timber. Although being a framing nailer, that's not quite so critical, because obviously most of that is not going to be seen because it's the framing stuff. If you put it onto 2, this is quite a stiff button, I find, and actually I find that sometimes quite hard. I've either got to push it, depending on how my fingers feel on the day. It's actually quite a resistance to get it from 1 to 2. I guess that's a good thing, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to keep swapping these buttons. So if you push that onto where it's got multiple brads, then you can effectively, it's almost like a semi-automatic. It's just going to keep, you'll be able to just bang that in. I've actually not had a need to do that, because by the time I get to the next brad, it's still fast enough to actually do it on a single brad speed. So I'm not quite sure who works in going bang, 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 bang. I don't work at that speed. And although it's useful, incredibly, and maybe if I was 20 my reflexes would be a lot faster, maybe I could work at that speed, but at 57 I can't work at that speed, and I don't really want to, and it being on number 1 is normally plenty fast enough for me. But it's a great feature, and I'm sure it works for those people who are just banging in and working at breakneck speed. There's this device on the top. I actually don't know what it's for. If anyone does know what it's for, it almost serves no purpose. I don't know. I'm sure it does something, but I can't tell you what that's for. Maybe some of you out there go, that's for that. And I'd be really, really pleased if anyone out there knows exactly what that's for. I saw another video. I saw a video reviewing this particular model. Again, they didn't know what it was for. So interesting. It has a tool belt holder. So you can see that there. I'm coming out of screen. So you can see on there, you're able to put that over into your tool. So when you're up, particularly roofing or high up, you can have this hanging off your tool belt. And that is a brilliant, again, it's great to be able to hang things around you, isn't it? So that's really, really good. Jumping across to the second fix, the 660, it's much smaller. This doesn't have 2-speed. It only has, again, a single brad or multiple brad. So you can see that on there. Am I showing that well? We can I've just press the fast. It won't. I'll come to that in a minute. There we go. You can see the single brads and the multiple brads. It doesn't have. It only has a single speed because it's a finishing nailer, so it's not breaking the surface. So when you put it in a piece of wood, which we're going to see in a minute, it doesn't punch so hard as this does, because it needs to be able to put in things like skirting board, for example, things that are finishing, and you don't want big dents where it's punched a hole, pushed the nail in and punched in as well, and you're having to fill holes. So that's not actually that helpful. We're going to come to loading the brads. Here you can see I've got 2 different brads here, and there I just want to point out the different angles of attack. You've got the 30 to 34 degrees, 34 degrees, and the 20. You can see if I bring them to the edge of my bench, you can see the difference, can't you? And so it's really important, and I didn't know that. Maybe I should have known it, but I didn't. So when buying brads, I was thinking, well, I'll just buy some brads. Turns out I bought completely the wrong brads, and obviously the thing wasn't going to fire and never was going to work. So it's about making sure that you've got the right brads in each of them. And anyone out there that tells me, well, you should have known that, well, thank you. But you don't know what you don't know. So there's the different brads, just looking at them, the 34 degrees and the 20 degrees. You also have straight brads as well, which I have discovered. None of them are going to fire in this either. You need a straight upright nailer. I haven't got that sort of device and don't really need it, but you have ones that fire in absolutely straight, so they would be absolutely parallel to the bench. So there you have it. They're the brads. So the next thing I'm going to do is load the magazine, load the cartridge. So you have here, you've got this slider and it's up. Now that pushes and holds the brads in. So to load, you just pull it down. Now this one should lock, and it does. You take your brads, bearing in mind you've got to put them in at the right angle, and it's easy to, even knowing now, you think, hang on a minute, which way are they going round? You slot them in the cartridge. Now I'm doing this upside, actually what we need to do is let gravity do its thing. So turn them around, the brads have now gone in there, and we just release this. We release the cartridge, we release the mechanism, and that in essence is loaded. It's that simple. If you want to take the brads out, you'll just release this, pull it down, and they fall out. They've fallen onto the floor down there. Yep, they're still in one piece. So let's put some brads back in. So we just do that again. Let's make sure I'm loading them correctly, because I'm doing it backwards, back to front. So we're just dropping those brads in. Boom. Yep. I've it done it the right way, doing it backwards and forwards. And in essence, she's ready to rock and roll. So the same applies to the second fix, the DCN660. Your brads, but this time they can go in and you can just drop them in and then bring them back. Bring this back. That doesn't stay down the bottom. So you bring that up and then drop it in, and that will hold the brads in place. So essentially the same thing. Way of doing it. You're just loading the cartridge in the brads into the cartridge. That comes down, and now that's locked, and that is actually ready to use. So we're going to come to use them. This is the 692, the DCN692, the framing nailer. Now I've only got 50mm brads in there, so that isn't actually going to hold this very well. But if you were putting these two together, you've obviously got to have a much bigger brad. I haven't been using it for that bigger material at the moment, but I would get brads if I needed them, but I don't have any. It's more about using it. So you can see here, we're going to knock through here. Now I'm going to use it on power 1. Number 1 is set on 1. You can see that right there. And it's just on a single. So here we go, we're going to punch it in. And you can see there, it's just punched it right through. It's not holding it well because it's only just into the timber. Only just into the timber. But there it is, there's the hole. Now I'm going to put it on 2 and you'll see how much more power it punches with. Also sounds different, doesn't it? Can you see that? Can you see the difference? It's punched much harder. So less so, saving battery, depending on how far you've got and what you're driving in. Now, these brads aren't big enough, as I said, because they're only just going into there, so they're not really going to hold. I could pull this apart, but this is more for demonstration purposes. But that shows you how hard that's driven in, and that's only a small one, but it has the power to drive and up to, I think it is 90mm, which would drive virtually all the way through that. Now we come to the 660 second fix. I've got just a nice little 2-amp battery in there, nothing big. So again, engage, you hear it engaging, take it off. So what we're going to do, we're just going to do that. And that, see how that's punched? It's punched it in there, but it hasn't touched the wood around it. So it's a finishing. So if we would just put multiples, which I'm going to try for the first time, see how fast I can go. Look at that as a second fix. That's brilliant. There's not a mark, is there? It's just driven the nail in. And then if you had a hole punch, you could just punch that in, couldn't you? But that is absolutely brilliant. And that's obviously, those brads are working better because it's still quite a big bit of timber. I could just, no, I'm not going to. I was going to attach this to it, but then I'd be like pulling it apart. So I won't. So you see the difference. First and second fix. First fix, it really punches hard. Second fix, nice and soft. Now you'll buy what you need for what you're doing. You'll buy the appropriate nailer. Maybe you need both, but that's my review and my understanding now of getting to know it and knowing the different uses for 2 brad nailers. Are they worth it? Well, I think they're a brilliant addition to my toolkit. You may think you have no need for use of them, but if you're thinking about jumping in like I was, actually sometimes all the information isn't that obvious. Well, it wasn't to me. Hey, I'm just being a bit dim, a bit silly about it, and going, really, and not understanding. It's probably as fast as my brain works anyway, which is on a tendency to go slow anyway. But maybe you'll want that. This is obviously a lot lighter, and if you're only ever doing first fix, you're building things and you want to get into nailing, this is brilliant. I'm really happy with both of them. They've both worked. I've used this, both of them. I've used this one in building fencing, and I'm starting to use them, incorporate them into various jobs as I get used to using them, and they certainly speed the process up. So if you need things to move along a little bit quicker, or you're just fed up of hitting your thumb with a hammer as you're banging in a nail, it's going to work, isn't it? It's going to work. So who knows? As you can see, this one's operating on a 2 amp at the moment, but you can put whatever battery size you want in it. I've got a 5 amp on this one, but it doesn't really matter, does it? So that's the Dewalt 660 and the DCN660 and the Dewalt DCN692. First and second fix nailers. If you've enjoyed the video or found it helpful or informative, please leave a comment and click the like button. It's much appreciated. Maybe this is just, maybe you're just exploring. I've certainly looked at lots of these videos, and some of them, depends on the detail they go into. I thought I'd go into some of the other aspects of it, particularly around the angles and the cartridge, which I just didn't know. But anyway, that's Dewalt framing and first and second fix nailers. So I hope you've enjoyed. So from me, Mark, at the Small Workshop Adventures, take care, everybody. Bye.